I wanted to wear my hair in braids today, but the headphones do make that a little weird. Like, as you can see, this one is literally just like bumping into it, and that's not a great look. And then there's this one that is just completely fine for some reason, like it's not bumping into it. And I have tried to like make this not look weird and not have it bump into like the headphones, but I don't know, no matter how many times I re-braid it, it just doesn't like it just doesn't want to cooperate, I guess. It wants to bump into this. So also my hair looks a little frizzy. I mean, look, when you have curly hair, there's gonna be frizz. My hair may be looking a little bit of a hot mess today, but we're just gonna roll with it. We're just gonna ignore it. Anyways. Hello, and welcome to my channel. Yes, this is the very first video that I'm ever making for YouTube. Probably not the best idea, considering that this is a video where I'm talking about something that I don't really like very much, but I'm a risk taker, I guess. So what I'm gonna be doing on here is most likely primarily theater content. I'm gonna be doing a few videos where I just sort of ramble about musicals like this one. And I plan on doing a few musical covers. Also probably some non-musical covers, but mostly it's probably gonna be musical covers. And I also have plans to do a vlog series for a musical that I'm going to be in, so stay tuned for that, and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for that. So I have a TikTok, a Twitter, and an Instagram. Go follow them, by the way. And on my Instagram and my Twitter, I did a poll asking you guys what you would like to see for my first ever video. A Be More Chill album comparison or a Heathers album comparison, and then promoted them on my TikTok. And I was surprised to see that Be More Chill won. I don't know why, but I was fully expecting Heathers to win for some reason. But it ends up being a good thing because I was planning on referencing my Be More Chill video in my Heathers video, and now I can do that and it'll make sense. I also love how I filmed that video in like September and posted that poll in like September, planning to make the video and have it out by like mid to late October to be like a Halloween kind of thing, you know, because like Heathers is all like horror themed and everything, so that would fit in. And then Be More Chill has like an entire plot line that takes place in Halloween and whole song based around Halloween, so I thought that would fit as well. But now it's January and I am barely filming this video. Gotta love procrastination. But anyways, so as you can tell, I love musicals, and one of my favorite musicals of all time is Be More Chill. I just think it's a really fun musical, and it's really funny, and the songs are great in my opinion, and I really like the message that it sends about staying true to yourself and not changing yourself for other people. And if you didn't know, Be More Chill has two different cast album recordings. There is the Two River Theater version when it originated in New Jersey in about like 2014, 2015. And then there is the Broadway cast album recording from when it moved to Broadway in like 2018. So as I said before, one of the videos that I've been wanting to make for a really long time is a Be More Chill album comparison video. And this video was originally going to be that, but it kind of turned into more of a critique of the Broadway version of Be More Chill, at least the album. But I do also have a few thoughts about the overall production of the Broadway version that I'm going to be talking about as well. Also, disclaimer, these are just my opinions. And I know that Broadway Be More Chill has its fans, and there are a lot of people who enjoy Broadway Be More Chill, and that is okay with me. I do not expect everyone to agree with me. However, if you do disagree with me, all I ask is that you respect my opinion. And if you do disagree with me, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I enjoy hearing different opinions and perspectives on things that I enjoy, and honestly, this is what art is all about. Sharing our opinions and interpretations on these works of art. And honestly, I don't think that Broadway Be More Chill is that bad, and most of the problems that I have with the album don't bother me as much when I'm watching it live. And I can still enjoy a production of Broadway Be More Chill despite the fact that I don't 100% love it. I just think that the original Two River Theater version is better in most aspects of the show. So without further ado, let's go song by song and compare these two albums, starting with More Than Survive.
Come on, come on, go, come on, come on, go.
Okay, so before we get into More Than Survive, one thing that I did want to note about Broadway Be More Chill is that I really like how it goes all out with the instrumentals, specifically how they make it more techy. It is a sci-fi musical, so it does make sense to do that, and it sounds a lot more techy than the original did, which I do like. And the best example of this is in the instrumental before More Than Survive, Jeremy's theme. But I'm not doing instrumentals for this video, sorry. Anyways, on to More Than Survive. So I think the first thing that I should talk about with Be More Chill is the fact that the main character, Jeremy, is played by two different people in both versions. In the original Two River Theater version, Jeremy is played by someone named Will Connolly. I think that's how you say it. Will Connolly, I highly doubt you're ever going to watch this, but if you are, feel free to correct me. And if I did butcher your name, I'm sorry. And then in the Broadway version of Be More Chill, Jeremy is played by another person named Will Rowland. Yeah, it's totally not confusing that they're both named Will. So I think the first question, or like the first thing that I should talk about is, what do I think of Will Rowland as Jeremy? And honestly, he's not my favorite Jeremy. I'm sorry. He isn't a terrible Jeremy at all, but there are a few problems that I do have with his performance, which some will get into a little later. One is that I feel like he's just not best fit for Jeremy, at least character-wise. I feel like he sort of Jared-fied Jeremy. In case you didn't know, Will Rowland played a different character in a different musical, Dear Evan Hansen, and he played Jared. And he was great at it. He originated the role and he was perfect for it, honestly. And I really loved him in it. However, he seemed to have taken some of those traits that he used for Jared and put them sort of into Jeremy, and I'm not sure that 100% works with me. Jared and Jeremy are just two very different characters, and I think it's just a little weird to mash them together. It's not a terrible choice, and I do really like the idea of a different take on Jeremy. I just think that it's not my cup of tea. I also feel like his voice just isn't very fit for this song specifically. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels weird hearing Will Rowland sing it. Another sort of problem I have with the album in general, and this is one of many examples, is that they kind of changed the dialogue around. Like, they added the dialogue between Jeremy and his dad. Not entirely sure why they did that. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, because, like, it could give some people who haven't been to the show some continuity, like, oh, Jeremy has, like, a bit of a deadbeat dad right now. They also changed the conversation between Chloe, Jenna, and Brooke, and Jenna isn't even in this part of the song anymore, but she does come back for another part of the song that's not on the album. And they put it like right before Michael's solo part, and it just sort of feels weird to have it there, because it's like you're in the middle of the song and all of a sudden we like just take a break to have a little scene with Jenna and Chloe. All of these dialogue changes to me kind of break the flow of the song and make it feel more random and chaotic, and not necessarily in a great way. Like, the original was random and chaotic, obviously, but the way that they structured it was more like grounded and cohesive, whereas now it feels more scattered and it feels like it makes less sense now. It also feels like they just made these changes for the sake of making changes, and they didn't really think about how these changes would affect the show. Like, it just feels like they decided, oh, it's moving to Broadway, so that means we need to make changes. And I'm all for making changes to a show, as long as those changes feel justified, or they improve some part of the story or another element of the show, which most of these changes don't seem to do. I also may get some hate for this. This may be a hot take, but I don't love Michael in the Broadway version of Be More Chill. I know. Listen, I do love Michael. I'm dressed as him, for goodness sake. He's probably my favorite character in the show, but I just don't like the Broadway version of him. For some reason, in the Broadway version, Michael is seemingly high all the time, and overall has a bit more of like a calmer demeanor. And yes, Michael is a bit of a stoner boy. We all know this.
I was gonna say getting stoned in my basement. We gotta get stoned in my basement!
But to me, Michael isn't meant to be someone who's the calm type, and definitely not high all the time. To me, he's meant to be someone who, yes, can be very reserved, but when he's with someone he likes being around and is comfortable with, like Jeremy, he's very open and he sort of puts himself out there quite a bit. He's kind of loud and not afraid to be silly, and he's very unapologetically himself when he's comfortable. And making him high all the time and more calmer kind of takes that away. Not only that, but it also takes something that was just like a running gag in the original and kind of makes it his whole personality, and not in a good way. However, I do love the line, "My mothers would be thrilled."
My brothers would be thrilled!
It's great. Okay, so with that all aside, let's move on to our next song, I Love Play Rehearsal.
I love play rehearsal because it's the best, because it is fun.
So I honestly don't have a lot of thoughts on this song because they're basically the same in both the Two River Theater version and the Broadway version. However, they did make Christine more like weird and awkward in the Broadway version, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, yes, she's meant to be weird and awkward, but she feels more grounded in the Two River Theater version. Like, it feels like they took that original version of her in the Two River Theater version and just like elevated her weirdness and awkwardness by like 10. I'm also not sure how to feel about this one part in the Broadway version where she's like kind of trying to act tough or something for some reason.
I love play rehearsal!
It feels a little weird with like the soft, happy vibe of the rest of the song, but at the same time it also kind of makes sense for her to like be weird like that, cause like, you know, she's just overall weird and that's kind of just her expressing herself. But I don't know, I guess I'm overall just mixed on the Broadway version. Let's move on to the Squib song. I'm sorry, Christine, for this very poor segment.
When you buy a squib.
So the first thought I always have when listening to the Broadway version of the Squib song is, why does it not sound like Gerard Canonico, even though he is literally the same person who plays Rich in both versions? Weird how different recording studios can do that. I mean, at least I'm assuming they're recorded in different studios. Also, in the Broadway version, when he sings the "It's from Japan" line, it almost sounds like his voice is damaged, or like he's damaging his voice while singing that line.
It's from Japan!
Maybe it's just me though. I mean, I can kind of understand if he's singing that super high note so many times on end for so long. It can be damaging to your voice, especially if you're like not using the proper technique to make sure you're singing it in the most healthy way. And I'm not saying for sure that he did damage his voice. I'm not a vocal coach, so I don't know. And I'm not saying that for sure he's like not using the proper technique to make sure he could sing that note. I don't know. I can't just listen to a person singing and automatically know what they're doing with their voice. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but I just feel like it kind of sounds like it could have been damaged or something. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe my ears are just weird. Also, why does Jeremy sound so scared when saying "you got quick"?
You got quick?
Also, I don't understand why they took out the "picture this" part of the song. It just kind of breaks the flow of the song to me. Like, to me it just feels like they definitely cut something out. Also, kind of a side tangent, but in the live version of this song, there's like this piece of dialogue that's not in the album, and they kind of screw that up as well. In the original version, this is a conversation that Jeremy and Rich have, where Jeremy's kind of asking questions and stuff about this squip thing, and Rich is explaining everything. But in the Broadway version, they kind of just rush through that and have Rich explain everything in one go, and so it doesn't feel like it flows like a regular conversation anymore. However, the Broadway version, again, makes this song sound more techy, which is especially fitting for this song since this is the song that's sort of like talking about the main piece of technology for the musical. Now with that all aside, let's move on to To Play a Game.
Cause what we do is we make it a two-player game.
So I actually like the Broadway version of To Play a Game. Like, I like this song more than some of the other Broadway songs. However, I do still think that the original is better. And I think that it's a combination of the Broadway changes seeping into this song that make me prefer the original. Like Michael sounding high. Also, why is there a random key change in the second verse? Like, they make the key higher for some reason, and then they immediately go back down to the original key when they get back to the "guys like us are cool in college" part. It just, again, sort of feels like an unnecessary change. Also, this might be a nitpick. This whole video is probably pretty nitpicky, honestly. But when Michael and Jeremy are singing like the final note of the song, it feels like Will Rowland kind of drowns out George, as opposed to Will Connolly and George being on more even level and volume in the original version. And I kinda wish one didn't drown out the other in the Broadway version. Or if they are going to have one drown out the other, it would make more sense for Michael to be that one, because it would sort of like emulate how Jeremy sort of feels like he's in Michael's shadow. So although I don't mind this version of To Play a Game, and I do like this song like compared to a lot of the other Broadway songs, if I had a choice between listening to the Broadway To Play a Game and the original To Play a Game, I'm definitely going with the original. Now let's talk about the Squip Enters.
Welcome to your Super Quantum Unit Intel processor. Your Squip.
So the Squip Enters isn't exactly a song in the sense of it's mostly just dialogue that I'm assuming is to help someone who's listening to the album and just like not familiar with the show to sort of get an idea of what's going on. But I had some stuff that I wanted to talk about with this song, so here we are. This is the moment where Will Roland really shines with his comedy skills. We need to get this guy a crown or something. Here you go, Will Roland, here's your crown. Broadway Comedy King. I doubt you're even going to watch this. However, in the original performance, Will Connolly does these like pterodactyl screeches. And they're just so hilarious, and I kind of miss them when I see Will Roland's performance. However, I think both of these guys' performances are like basically on par with each other because they just both do such a great job with their performance in this scene. They do also add some extra dialogue in the Broadway version, and I don't really know how to feel about it. It's just kind of there. So now we get into the most infamous critique of the Broadway version of Be More Chill. And I agree with pretty much everyone who critiques on this part. The squib in the Broadway version sounds like a surfer dude. And no, I do not like it. I now know that apparently the squib's accent is supposed to be a reference to like a movie Keanu Reeves was in or something.
All of you who called Jason Tam's squib a bad performance because he did a surfer accent are uncultured, because it was clearly a reference to the greatest cinematic achievement in human history, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. No, this is not a bit.
But the surfer accent ruins the character of the squib to me, and here's why. The squib is meant to be this super intelligent computer that is a know-it-all, and it knows it. It knows how intelligent it is. And Eric William Morris, the original squib, does a beautiful job showing this with the way he speaks as the squib. And this also makes for a fairly intimidating villain. And when you replace that with a surfer accent, it ruins the intimidation and turns the squib into a joke to me. With all that said, let's move on to Be More Chill Part 1.
You be more chill.
Broadway Be More Chill Part 1 starts off with like a little extra verse that they added for the Broadway version. And to me, it's just kind of there. It's not bad, and it's pretty catchy, and I don't mind it being there. It's cool, but it also just kind of exists. There's also a part in the beginning where Jason Tam, the Broadway squib, is like talking instead of singing, and every time I listen to that part, I'm always just like, sing, don't talk. You sound so much better when you're singing. Also, why is Will Roland's Jeremy seemingly proud to be a masturbator?
Oh, but I am a masturbator.
Like, he just sounds so proud about it, and I don't understand why. I mean, hey, if you're proud about it, good for you. But I've just never seen it as something that people are usually so proud about or open about. And this goes into something that I don't really love about Will Roland's performance, which is that he seems to sometimes play stuff off for laughs or over dramatize stuff when it doesn't necessarily fit. This masturbator line is one example of this. Like, compared to Will Connolly's version of the line.
But I am a masturbator.
And it feels more realistic. Like, I feel like it's more fitting for Jeremy's character to feel more awkward about talking about being a masturbator. I feel like I'm diving way too deep into this. And then in another part of this song, the squib is trying to get Jeremy to flirt with these girls and tells Jeremy to speak like he doesn't care about his own death. Again, let's compare these two performances.
Looking pretty sexy, Brooke.
Looking pretty sexy, Brooke.
What about Will Roland's performance gives off that Jeremy's trying to act like he doesn't care about his own death? It just feels like he's playing that part for laughs. And this isn't the only time that this happens.
I was just gonna check my email!
And yes, plenty of moments are played for laughs and over-dramatized, especially for Jeremy, because he is a spazzy, over-dramatic boy. But Will Connolly seemed to know when to over-dramatize things and play things for laughs, and when not to. And when he did so in a way that just felt realistic and grounded. Whereas Will Roland, although funny, doesn't seem to do this. And overall, Will Connolly's performance is just more real to me, which is why I think I prefer his performance over Will Roland's. And this over-dramatized and played for laughs issue seems to carry on to the rest of the show too.
I'll mock you forever if you don't.
And I know this is a bit of a side tangent, but I felt like it needed to be said, and this felt like the best place to put it. But without further ado, let's move on to Do You Wanna Ride?
Do you wanna ride? Do you wanna ride? Do you wanna ride? Wanna go far?
This is gonna be a bit of a short segment because I don't have that many thoughts on Do You Wanna Ride? But the main thing that I wanted to talk about with this song is that they slow down the first part in the Broadway version for some reason, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It just sort of feels like yet another unnecessary change. But then once it speeds up in the second part, it's a bop. I also think I slightly prefer the Pinkberry line in the Two River Theater version, but overall, Lord Marcus kills it both times. I think overall, the Broadway version is a bit of a mixed bag for me. Now let's move on to Be More Chill Part 2. I said this segment was gonna be short.
Be more chill.
So I think yet again, Will Connolly's performance is better than Will Roland's in this song. Not that Will Roland's performance is bad in this one though. The main thing about Will Connolly's performance is that it really gets you to feel bad for Jeremy in this scene. Basically, in this scene, the squib is essentially telling Jeremy to just say a bunch of bad things about himself. And Will Roland's Jeremy is kind of hesitant to say these things, kind of like I don't really want to say these bad things about myself, but okay. Which is a perfectly fine way to do this scene. However, Will Connolly's Jeremy says these things in a way that shows he truly believes what he's saying. Like, all these things that the squib is telling him to say are true. Like, yes, everything about me is so horrible, and yes, I do need to fix these things about me. And that's depressing. And it really makes you feel bad for Jeremy in the scene, which I think is important, which we'll get into more about later. But for now, we're gonna move on to the next song that was specifically made for the Broadway version of Be More Chill, Sync Up. Okay, so I kind of lied a second ago when I said that this song was like exclusively made for Broadway. It is a Broadway original song, but it's kind of a replacement of another song that was in the original version, More Than Survive Reprise. They basically took a small reprise and turned it into a full fleshed out song. So is it any good? It's not terrible, but it just feels a little unnecessary. More Than Survive Reprise was short and sweet. This song feels a little too exposition-y. It's basically the squib explaining things about the other people in the school, which is the greatest way to help your audience learn about your characters. Also, there's this one detail in More Than Survive Reprise that I really liked, and they took it out in this song, or at least replaced it with something worse. Basically, the music in the song, for a moment, replicates the music in Michael's solo in More Than Survive, but then the music kind of stops abruptly, indicating the first time that the squib optic nerve blocks Michael, and it's great. Then, the synced up turned this moment into a more very obvious scene of the Squip optic nerve blocking Michael.
Headphones in the hallways, Michael! Michael, where? Yo, tall ass!
I like it better when people put more subtle details into their works of art. To me, that really shows how much time and effort creators put into their work. Also, it's really cool for me personally to be all, oh hey, there's little subtle detail that I never noticed before. That's so cool. So yeah, the fact that they replaced this cool subtle detail with something that's way more obvious and way less subtle is a little disappointing to me.
Hi, this is Editor Eve coming in to say that even the off-Broadway version of Be More Chill, or at least this boot of the off-Broadway version of Be More Chill that you're watching right now, even this version that has the Morden Survivor Praise in it doesn't use this little detail. Like, the background music doesn't emulate Michael's solo in any way, so yeah, that detail's gone from the off-Broadway version too, which makes me sad. Okay, bye.
But to end this on a positive note, Synced Up is pretty catchy, and there are a couple funny parts in this song.
This one uses gossip to get attention from her peers, but as soon as she shares it, they ignore her.
That's sad. What should I do?
You should ignore her. Poor guy, his dreams are dead. That's why he eats so many Hot Pockets.
Anyways, let's move on to a guy that I kinda be into.
From a guy that I'd never be into a guy that I kinda be into.
So this song, much like I Love Play Rehearsal, I don't have a lot to say about because both the Two River Theater version and the Broadway version are pretty much the same. I like the clapping they added. It's really cute. Oh, also, I think the Broadway version flows a little bit better maybe because in the original they kind of just stopped the song for a second just to continue it. But I don't know, I wasn't really a problem for me in the original, and I still really like the original. Can you tell I'm struggling to talk about the Christine songs? They're just all the same. Let's just move on to Upgrade. I'm sorry, Christine, you deserve so much better, but I just don't know what to say about your songs.
Gotta get an upgrade. You gotta get an upgrade.
The beginning of the Broadway version of Upgrade is a little weird. They took out the Take Me Inside You line from the original, and it's now just Brooke singing the first verse pretty much, which I don't mind. It's kind of a change that just exists, though maybe that was for the best that they changed that, considering what the original spawned in the fandom. Ugh. Also, Brooke has vocals, and I'm glad that they showed them off here. I also like how they confirmed Jeremy to be player 2 in the Broadway version, because a lot of people will make fan art and label Jeremy as player 1, and I'm like, no. And the way they do it is great too, kind of showing how Jeremy's always kind of felt like in the cast of Michael's shadow. I also like how they gave Jake more of a moment in the Broadway version. He completely changes the trajectory of the song, which is pretty cool. But speaking of completely changing the trajectory of the song, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I do really like how it gave Jake this moment, but it just feels so different from the original. Like, it almost doesn't feel like Upgrade anymore, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. Anyways, let's move on to another song made exclusively for Broadway, Loser, Geek, Whatever.
From being the loser, the geek, or whatever, sick of being the loser, the geek, or whatever, yeah!
Okay, so I absolutely love Loser, Geek, Whatever. This is a change that actually fixes a problem with the original musical. In the original musical, the ending of Act 1 is Upgrade, with the ending of Upgrade being a little moment for Jeremy, kind of going through his thoughts on everything. This song takes that to a whole new level in the best way possible. See, one mistake that I feel like some people may make is making out Jeremy to be this like completely awful person when that's just not the case. Like, were the things that Jeremy did right? Absolutely not. But you gotta think about the headspace this kid is in. His mom just left him. His dad is too depressed about that to be a dad. He's a complete nobody at school with only one friend who, although very well intentioned and is doing his best to be supportive and not doing a terrible job at it, doesn't seem to completely understand him. And here's this thing that comes into his life, seemingly making everything better for him. Also, I think that people are avoiding the actual problem, which is that this is clearly a situation of abuse and manipulation. The Squib is the bad guy, not Jeremy. But the Squib was off when he called Michael a loser. Okay, shut up. Yes, the Squib was off when that happened, but he was clearly still in the mindset of being squibbed. He was brainwashed. Jeremy is a victim too. Anyways, the reason I love this song is because it really gets you into Jeremy's head and helps you understand why he's doing the things that he's doing. Unlike the original version, which kinda makes him seem like an asshole. And Jeremy definitely deserved another solo, especially one that really helps you understand how he feels. Also, this song is a bop. Like, I jam out to it every time I listen to it, even though the lyrics are depressing. From being the loser, the geek, or whatever, sick of being the loser, the geek, or whatever, yeah! Is that weird? Also, this song is made for Will Roland, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like, the song just fits him and his voice so perfectly.
Hi, Editor Eve again. Just came to say that this song also does a great job of showing Will Roland's singing abilities, and also it just makes for a really great Act 1 finale. Look, I could probably talk about this song all day, it's so good!
Overall, this song is just mwah. So Broadway finally made a change to be more chill that improves on the original material. You did it, Broadway, be more chill. You're not completely worthless, you're just mostly worthless. Okay, that was mean. I don't actually mean that, really. I was mostly just quoting a YouTube video that I like from a channel I really like.
You did it, Shrek the Musical. You're not completely worthless, just mostly worthless.
Okay, but one thing I don't get is why they re-recorded this song for the album when the single version is right there and it sounds so much better. Anyways, let's move on to Act 2 in our Act 2 opener, Halloween.
It's Halloween. It's Halloween.
One thing I really like about this version of Halloween is this little detail they added. There's this little moment where Rich does this little blink and you'll miss it, ow, indicating he got shocked by a squib. Why did he get shocked by a squib? I don't know, but you know I'm a sucker for those little details. I also like how the Broadway version sounds a bit more like an actual party. Very fitting, thanks to those instrumentals. I'm not sure why they added that ending part to it. I don't mind it, it's catchy. It just, again, feels like an unnecessary change. Overall, this isn't a bad remake of the song, but I think I prefer listening to the original just a little bit more. However, I will give both of these versions a listen from time to time, which is more than I can say about a lot of the other Broadway songs. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the next song, Do You Wanna Hang? But before we move on to that, I need to give a trigger warning. This next song is going to be diving a little heavily into SA, so if you don't want to hear anything about that, just skip to this timestamp right here. Or I'll also put it in the description and maybe in the comment section so that you can just click to it and get to it faster. Anyways, let's move on to that song right now.
Do you wanna hang? Do you wanna hang? Do you wanna hang for a bit?
Let's just get this over with because I hate this song. Does anyone like this song? Anyway, so here's the thing about the Broadway version. It kinda turns the situation into more of a joke. Like, they elevate the already existing jokes in it, and they kind of add more jokes to it.
I can be nice! I can be so goddamn nice!
And overall just kind of make it more lighthearted. I'm sure they did this to try and make everything less uncomfortable. But here's the thing, sexual assault just shouldn't be a situation to make jokes in or make jokes about. It just feels wrong seeing jokes played in this scene, even if they are kind of funny. And that funniness is kind of watered down with this feeling of, why are we making jokes in this moment? Also, the added instruments in this song don't help it. Most of the music in this album are great with the added instruments, but in this situation with a song that's meant to be more slow and sexy, even though sexual assault is not sexy, but you get my point, it just feels off. So yeah, they kind of butchered this song, but it's not like I really cared about it in the first place, so let's just move on to Michael in the Bathroom. I don't want to talk about this song anymore.
Michael in the bathroom by himself.
The Broadway version of Michael in the Bathroom is a bit of a swing and a miss for me, and here's why. They kind of slowed down the song and made it more like sad and depressing, which seems like a good idea on paper. Until you realize he's supposed to be having a panic attack. The original had this rush of anxiety to it. And when you take that away and turn it into any other slow ballad, you don't have a panic attack. You can't have the panic attack without the panic. I feel like this song just works better when you have that mix of the anxiety and the sadness. Without that added anxiety, it just kind of turns into a song about Michael crying, sort of, which doesn't seem like a bad idea, but it makes the emotion in the song feel watered down compared to the original. And there are parts in the original that are slow, but it's not the whole song, unlike how it feels it is in Broadway. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the smartphone hour.
Rich set a fire and he burned down the house.
So for me, I think Broadway smartphone hour is a little mixed. Let's start with things I like. I like how Chloe sounds hungover in the Broadway version. It's pretty funny. That's what you get, you bit. Also, Brooke's scream is pretty funny, and I like how they made that a more prominent detail in the Broadway album, because it's not as obvious in the Two River Theater album. But then if you listen to like this boot audio of the original Two River Theater performance, you'll hear that, yep, she's screaming. Also, Broadway Jenna's got vocals. But speaking of which, they do another weird key change thing. The key in the first verse and the first chorus are higher, and then after that they just go back down to the original key. I don't know why they keep doing this. Also, why do they say Jake's house instead of the house? I feel like the house just flows so much better. So overall, a mixed bag. Also, side note, but before this song, Broadway added a little scene with like Rich kind of freaking out and then like his plan to like set the house on fire to try and get his squip out of his head. And I really like the original off-Broadway version of this scene.
I can't get rid of you, but I won't let you get inside anyone else.
And how do you plan on stopping us?
With this!
And then Broadway kind of turned it into a scene that I don't like as much.
If I can't get you out of my head, then I'll burn you out!
Anyways, now there's a little bit of a conundrum. So in the original version, Pitiful Children came before the Pants song. But in the Broadway version, the Pants song comes before Pitiful Children. And honestly, I don't think it really matters that much. Broadway did a good job of like adapting the story for this change, though it does lead to the Broadway version of Pitiful Children. And speaking of which, I decided to talk about Pitiful Children, because I have some things to say about that. So let's get into it.
Let's save the pitiful children. Whoa.
So Broadway ruins Pitiful Children. It isn't just the fact that the Broadway squip isn't the best squip, which does kinda play into how bad the song is, but my biggest problem is that they changed so much of the lyrics and it just doesn't make sense to me. See, the original message of Pitiful Children was the squip saying to Jeremy, hey, if you squip everyone, then you can make everyone happy and improve everyone's lives. But in the Broadway version, they make it all about Christine for some reason. Now it's basically the squip trying to get Jeremy to squip Christine and trying to get him to squip the entire school to please Christine. This is so unnecessary to me. We already know that the end goal is for Jeremy to get with Christine. We didn't need to hear it again. Also, changing this song to be all about Christine misses the point of the original song and it muddles down the scene dramatically to me. The original felt like it was an elevation of the squip's goals. Like, it starts off trying to help Jeremy get with Christine and doing everything to do that, to trying to take over the whole school and manipulating Jeremy into doing that. And the Broadway version changes that to squip Christine to be with her and squip the whole school to somehow please Christine. Like, they don't even explain like why squipping the school would please Christine really. Like, this just seems so weird. Like, there's no indication that like squipping everyone would please her. They just kind of say it without really giving a reason. And then they keep the last part exactly the same, as if that's gonna fit in with what the rest of the lyrics were talking about, and it just doesn't. Like, you can't just make the first part all about Christine and act like it's gonna be the same message as the original by the end, but on one singular positive note, Jenna do got them vocals. But also, why is she opera singing? Anyways, let's just move on to the pants song.
When you love somebody, you put your pants on for them.
So this segment is going to be extremely quick because I really don't have a lot to say about the pants song. I like the singing and the music more in the original, but I think I like the dialogue more in the Broadway version. It's so funny. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this song. Sorry again for the short segment. Oh well, on to the play.
I was just in the audience thinking, this is pretty good for a school play. Then I was like, this is way too good for a school play!
So the play, again, isn't really a song. Much like The Squip Enters, it's kind of more of just like a recorded scene to help people who haven't seen the show and are only like listening to the cast album, to sort of help them get like an idea of what's going on. But I'm still gonna talk about it anyways. It's only fair because I talked about The Squip Enters and I had some thoughts about it, so here we are. So my first thought is that the Two River Theater version just feels more real to me. Like, the emotions feel more real, and they have some beats in certain moments that I feel like the Broadway version could have really used in those moments. Like how there's a small little beat before Michael makes an entrance. Or that moment where Jeremy is giving Christine that last drop of Mountain Dew Red, and there's like that beat before he goes, drink this. Also, the way some of the lines are said in the Broadway version contribute to this lack of realness. Also, why does Michael in the Broadway version immediately understand what's going on with the squips and decides to tell Jeremy right then and there? It made sense for no one to really know what was going on in the moment, and then Michael figures it out later and then tells Jeremy later at the hospital. However, I do really like what Will Roland does with his voice in this scene, because let's be real, it's not really a song. It's a little hard to like describe what he's doing. The best way I can describe it is he almost sounds like a malfunctioning robot.
You love to feel superior and don't care about being popular because I wouldn't give up like you did. I'm jealous you don't.
It's really cool. Not entirely sure how he does it, but props to you, Will Roland, for being able to make those weird sounds with your mouth. Now let's finally move on to the last song of this show, Voices in My Head.
Voices in my head, but now they're just the normal kind. Voices in my head, but now they're the normal kind.
So these songs are about on par with each other for me. For once, there's a tone change in here that actually works. They start off with a lower tone in the beginning, and then by the end, they go to the original tone, but it makes it feel more like a grand finale because of it. I could also complain about the lyric changes being unnecessary, but I've already done that so many times. Also, they're not necessarily bad lyric changes. I think it's kind of funny that they go, "Don't dump her on Halloween." But also I feel like Brooke could have said that line and that would make more sense than Chloe saying it. The one thing I could say I don't love is how the squib kind of lurks in longer in the Broadway version. Like, he starts off going like, "Jeremy," earlier, and I don't really like that. It almost feels like because they extended it, the squib kind of ran out of things to say by the end. But other than that, this is a really solid remake of this song. At worst, it's on par with the original, and at best, it might actually be a bit better. There will always be a little place in my heart for the original version, but this version can kind of snuggle up next to it. That's a weird way to say that. Great job for finishing on at least a high note, Broadway Be More Chill. So Broadway Be More Chill definitely had a lot of potential to be such a great show, at least to me. Especially because Broadway definitely had a higher budget than the original Two River Theater version. And visually, this show is great, and it's perfect, honestly. I don't really have any complaints about the visuals. All of the set pieces and effects are really cool, and clearly this is a high quality production in that department. And there are moments that match up to the original, and even some moments that are even better. However, the Broadway version of this show, of the story, is just full of so many unnecessary changes that at best don't really do anything, and at worst make that part that was changed feel even worse. There's barely any changes here that feel justified or feel like they improve on the story in any way, shape, or form. I think the main moral of the story in this video is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Even though I don't love the Broadway version of Be More Chill, it doesn't mean that I can't enjoy it. And there are definitely worse shows than this one, to me. However, the Two River Theater version, to me, is just better story-wise and album-wise. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this really long video. What are your opinions on the Broadway version of Be More Chill? Do you prefer it over the Two River Theater version, or do you agree with me and think the Two River Theater version is better? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Also, stay tuned for my Heathers video and other videos that I planned for this channel. Until then, I'll see you next time in the next video. And now, in true Michael Mel fashion, I'm gonna have some sushi. Don't judge me, okay? I didn't have chopsticks. Bye.
Come on, let's go. Come on, let's